So I recently saw Veer Das's comedy special, Sounds of India. And if you've not seen it, you should definitely watch it because it's been a very long time since I've had intelligent comedy where I actually had to apply my brain and pay attention to what the comedian is saying to get a laugh and to really enjoy it. But I digress. There was a bit in the stand-up special where he decided to go ahead and mock every single religion one by one. First, of course, he went after Hinduism, then he went after Islam, and then he went after Christianity, uh, and that's where it ended. That's where the buck stopped. He also goes into this whole other direction where he mentions Nichiren Daishonen's Buddhism. For some reason, he says it's Tibetan. I'm sure he knows it's Japanese. His parents were also Buddhist leaders. We've all had, I mean, I don't know about you. I've grown up in a Nichiren household. It's so irritating. I can't even begin to describe it. And of course, how do you have a Muslim Parsi XYZ sitting under one roof, under spirituality and not religion? I mean, spiritual traditions are like they have such a long history. You know, there's so many people who revere, say, Prophet Muhammad without believing a word of Islam, because to them he's a great king, just like Genghis Khan. Yeah, there's just so many spiritual traditions that you don't need to be a part of a cult to follow. Nichiren itself is known for funding so many right wing movements in Japan. So much political violence happens in the name of that sect. And even in the 192 countries, which are ironically all UN registered countries, they're known to try to destabilize politics, push them towards a more pro US stance, whatever that stance may be. And yes, overall, they are a vehicle of promoting capitalism in the name of spirituality, as most US backed religious cults tend to be. Uh, Japan has had a whole movement where they completely banned multiple cults and people actively identified as atheists to say that they don't believe in religion, despite their practices overwhelmingly being very Shinto in nature. Most people identify as atheists there. I digress again. Back to religion. It is something that is very personal to people, and political practice of religion is obviously wrong. There is clearly a sense of identity politics that comes into that sort of practice of religion. Even having an identity around, say, Nichiren or any other spiritual but not religious type of practice, as long as we're building an identity around it, we are locking ourselves into Mo Maya, which is actually, it is a very core tenet of Sanatana Dharma. It is something that is constantly rejected. You are not your identity, you are not your birth, you are your actions. Your dharma, your duty defines you, not your birth. At least not always. There is clearly discrepancy in practice today. It would also be foolish to ignore discrimination. But at least in theory and in a lot of practices of sects, there is obviously a caste dharma, there is obviously a sect dharma. The sect dharmas have this very consistent practice that you have to give up your caste practice, your ancestral's practice, and you have to get moksha from it. And this stands in a sort of contradiction to other Abrahamic faiths like Christianity and Islam, where there is only one God. You either believe it and you're on this side, or you don't believe in it and you're on that side. And most identity politics, although I don't want to defend identity politics in India, especially majoritarian Hindu right wing identity politics, a lot of it is a response to that original monotheistic identity politics that first emerged. And yes, we constantly see like the Hinduvi Swaraj idea emerging out of, say, Maharashtra, or eventually like the formulations of Hindutva under the British Raj. We see a kind of grapple against that sort of identity politics with another counter form of identity politics. Hindu itself is a foreign word, and yes, you take away Islam and Christianity, Hinduism will cease to exist. It'll just be people doing various sect practices, ancestral practices, like caste dharmas, and maybe other sect dharmas, sectual acts, you may call it that. And spiritual traditions have you following so many various paths to come to a truth. Um, of course, the Gorakhnath sect, for example, had many Muslim devotees who would come to Gorakhnath to do certain spiritual practices. Wajid Ali Shah was a very big devotee of Krishna, the whole dance form. Kathak is literally from his practice of devotion to Krishna. Not one of these people is following the actual rules of Islam or Christianity, but all of these practices have their place, have their niche in Sanatan Dharma, essentially. And these sort of cultural niche practices have informed certain sects or the lores of certain castes. And yeah, another example is obviously Hussaini Brahmins who fought alongside the Shia warriors in Arabia. Um, that itself, once again, their name is literally Hussaini Brahmin. They identify with that first fitna. So, yes, I mean, you have multiple regional spiritual practices, and yes, they combine under Hinduism. Now, that has been a political term in recent times, rightfully, wrongfully so. Debatable, I would say. Yes, it's more wrong than right, but hey, I mean, to each their own. But yes, back to the point, to have a sort of narrative that, oh yes, I have to treat all religions equally, therefore I must crack jokes on them one by one in equal measure and quantity, is a false notion when the religions themselves are not exactly equals. It would make sense to have, say, Islam, Christianity, and say the Bishnois and their practices, because that would make sense. That is maybe a little more equal, not as equal, but it is a little more equal than sort of cracking a joke about Hindus and Muslims and Christians one by one. And yes, I think the set only worked because of religion being politicized so much in today's public space, that yes, I mean, it has a space to, offend, say, Muslims, or offend, say, Christians. Of course, he does not joke about, uh, I guess, Jesus uh, in an overly offensive manner. And yeah, same with, like, obviously Allah. You can't joke about Allah. You could joke about Muhammad. You can't joke about Allah. So yes, I think it just missed that niche. But of course, I mean, by that metric, you can joke about anything in Hinduism, and none of it should be a problem either. But once again, we are looking at it from a very political lens, religion in a political lens. We're not looking at religion as religion itself. And yes, because if we did that, we would be measuring non equals. And yes, I mean, that's just one of those floating thoughts in my head I had when I saw the special. I will not recite any of the jokes. I don't want to spoil it. I'll probably reiterate that again. Yes, but anyways, I don't want to spoil more of the Veerda special. I am not going to recite any of the jokes from that. You should definitely go watch it. It's done in Delhi. You can watch it in Mumbai and wherever else the tour is planned. It is worth your time. Honestly, it is a breath of fresh air. Some of his politics is aged, it is old India politics, but beyond that, it really is a breath of fresh air, and more comedians need to make such intelligent comedy. So I really enjoyed it thoroughly, and yes, I mean, it's if the goal was to start a conversation, here is a video, and yes, we can continue this conversation in the comments, and I'll see you around. Good night.